Welcome back friends to become cyber security expert. My name is Pranav Sabane and in this video we are going to see key terms of IT risk. So for simplicity I have divided this into two parts. So this is part 1. For remaining key terms please watch my video on part 2. So in the video of IT risk basic concepts we discussed that risk is uncertainty of outcome. When outcome is uncertain, it is risk. Risk is always in the future. Risk is never at present. Risk is never in the past. Risk is always in the future. Will my critical application go down? Is a risk. It is in the future. But when this risk get materialized, we no more call it risk. In IT terminology, we call it an incident. So let's see some key terms of risk management. So first is inherent risk or original risk. Assume that you have deployed some application and there is absolutely no security, neither physical security nor IT security. So anyone can go and touch your hardware where you have installed or deployed the application. No physical security. There is no user ID, there is no password, there is no antivirus installed, absolutely no control, no security. That state is called as inherent risk or original risk. In today's world, it is not possible to have such scenario. But for understanding, it is important. So that level where there is no security, neither physical security nor IT security. And in such case, whatever risk is there for your application, that risk is called as inherent risk or original risk. But over the period of time, you have implemented few controls, not all controls, few controls. So there may be user ID and password, there may be antivirus, there may be some backup or some firewall. That's it. IT controls, IT security controls. And there is some level of physical security. So some controls are there. So you have mitigated that risk, means mitigated your inherent or original risk up to some level. But still risk remains. You can never ever bring the risk to level 0. You cannot eliminate risk completely. You can only bring it below a level which is acceptable for your organization. So now after implementing some controls, whatever risk remains is called as current risk. So current risk means the risk which is there at any point of time. That is called as current risk. When no control was implemented in our previous example, when we discussed inherent risk or original risk, at that time there was no control. So inherent risk and current risk was same at that time. But now we have implemented few controls and risk level has been reduced. So your current risk is different than your inherent or original risk. So hope you have understood these two terms, inherent risk or original risk and current risk. But you have not yet implemented all controls. So over the period of time, you have implemented all controls. You have foolproof physical security, that only authorized people can enter the data center and touch your hardware, and there is utmost level of IT security. You have all possible controls in place. You have credentials with multi-factor authentication. You have operating system hardened. You have antivirus installed. You have IDS, IPS, NIPS installed with best recommended configuration. You have multiple layers of firewalls. You have application running in high availability mode. You have all processes in place. You have incident management, you have change management, you have capacity management, you are taking backups. So all controls have been implemented. No control is left for implementation. But still risk remains. As we discussed earlier, you cannot eliminate the risk completely. You cannot bring the risk to level 0. At the most, you can bring it below your acceptable level. That is your risk appetite. We'll discuss about risk appetite in part 2. So after implementing all controls, whatever risk still remains, that risk is called as residual risk. Let me repeat my statement. After implementing all controls, still some risk remains. That risk is called as residual risk. And earlier your current risk was different than your residual risk, because you implemented few controls, not all controls. But now you have implemented all controls. So now your current risk and residual risk is the same. Hope you have understood first 3 terms: inherent risk, that is original risk, current risk, and residual risk. Now the last point on this PPT is secondary risk. What is secondary risk? Assume that I am suffering with viral infection, and that's why I am taking antibiotics. So viral infection is a risk. It has now materialized. Incident. It has become incident. So that's why I am taking antibiotics. So this control, antibiotics, will minimize the risk. I will get cure from viral infection. But it will lead to some other risk, that is acidity. I will suffer with acidity because of the antibiotics. So the risk which is generated due to your control to minimize or mitigate your primary risk, that risk is called as secondary risk. Let's take one IT example. User ID and password, that is credentials, are necessary but not sufficient, because anyone can guess your password and misuse it. So user ID and password means credentials are necessary but not sufficient. So you have implemented multi-factor authentication, two-factor authentication. So after typing correct user ID and password, you will receive OTP on your mobile. So implementing this control will definitely reduce your primary risk. Possibility of misuse of your credentials will be reduced drastically, but it will lead to some other risk. What if I lose my mobile? What if there is no connectivity, and even after typing correct user ID and password, I did not receive OTP on my mobile? So even though I am authorized user, even though it is necessary for me to work on that particular portal, even though I have everything, but only because I did not receive OTP for whatever reason, I am not able to log in. Earlier this risk was not there. This risk came only because I have implemented some control, and that control which mitigated my primary risk has given birth to secondary risk. So this is a secondary risk. So this is a part of your key terminologies related to IT risk. Hope you have found this video useful. If so, please like the video, please share the video and subscribe your own channel Cyber Security Expert. Thanks for watching. Thank you so much. Bye bye.